Hey friend, you are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Brown. I'm a professional home organizer, decluttering specialist, and business coach. I created POC to empower you to reach new heights in your business. Through insightful interviews, expert guidance, and actionable strategies, we will equip you with the tools that you need to excel. This podcast is not just about tidying up spaces. It's about building a supportive sisterhood of passionate professional organizers. Whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just starting out, this podcast is for you. So let's do this. Welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Today, I have Shaina Quick joining me, and we are going to talk about how being your authentic self can actually help you get more clients. Shaina has a business called Faith and Endurance, and she is an accountability and clarity coach. Say that 3 times fast. She is an ambitious kingdom woman on a mission to empower women to take imperfect, obedient action, which I love. She is a devoted wife, mother, and new author. That's exciting, with an education background in psychology and accounting. She uses her ability to work with people and love of organizing to create structure, peace, and clarity for her clients. As a focus and empowerment coach, her mission is to encourage women to partner with God and take small actions that will increase their confidence and move them into impact. So thank you, Shaina, for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. So what I love about this is actually in the previous episode, I was talking to a lady and she was talking about her 1% method. And it reminds me of this because she was saying how, kind of like the whole penny doubled thing over a month gives you like how $1 million or whatever it is. And then, how people say, like, if you're off like 1 degree and you're going across the ocean to Hawaii, you won't even end up there. You'll end up in the ocean. And so that 1% can make such a difference. And so I love how these next 2 episodes are going to take kind of what she was saying, which was at a very high level. And now we're going to bring it down to how it's actually something that they can do, how they can do that. And not only how can they do that, but if they're having trouble doing it, what could be getting in their way? And so I am so excited to get into this topic. Being your authentic self and how that can help you get more clients is so important because not only does it help you get more clients, but it helps you get more of the right type of clients. Because I promise you, if they are not the right type of client, it's not worth the hassle of having to deal with them anyways. Ask me how I know. Today, we are going to learn what mindset shifts do you need to make in order to get more clients. 2, your clients are already out there waiting for you and why that's important. 3, we're going to ask you 4 questions to help you find your authentic story so your ideal clients can find you. And we're going to add a few bonus questions to think about. And then 4, if you are getting stuck, the 3 fears that are the options, but it's definitely one of the 3, or maybe 3 out of 3. Like, as I was reading over them, I'm like, oh, I know of times that all 3 of these have gotten in my way. And so, this is definitely going to be a 2-parter. So we're going to get through like kind of halfway through number 3, and then make sure to join us next week for part 2. All right, so let's jump on in. So first, let's talk about what mindset shifts do we need to make in order to get more clients. So how do I get more clients? What if we switched that to how can I best serve my clients by being my authentic self? I can already hear some of you thinking, but I haven't even gotten my first client. So just stick around because we are going to jump into a little more shortly. All right. So Shaina, talk to me about that specific mindset shift and why it is so important we examine how we are choosing to look at this.
Absolutely. I love this question and I love talking about mindset because it really all starts there before we even get our first client. Everything starts with our mindset and how we're approaching this process of starting a business and growing a business, right? And for me, a big shift into realizing being my authentic self will bring them in is by realizing that the people you're connecting with, the audience you're building, is already full of free clients. So even if you're like, I don't have any paying clients yet, if you look at all the people that you connected with that you're working on building relationships with for the sake of growing your business, your audience is full of free clients right now. They are people that have raised their hands and said, I want to be your friend because I like you. I want to get to know the real you, the authentic you. The virtual space is a place that is so filled with people who are pretending, that are acting as though they're so much farther along than they really are, or things are always going great. If you're a human, things are not always going great. Like, let's be honest. So to be able to be real and authentic with your audience is going to bring out so much value. They're going to get to know you. It's going to build that know, like, and trust factor so much faster to where you can serve them from a place of just being you. And when they do come to hire you, you already know that they resonate with who you are. You don't have to change who you are in order to serve them well. You don't have to pretend to be something you're not in order to complete the job, because you started your relationship pretending to be something else, right? As long as you're authentic from the beginning, as you move into, serving those free clients well, adding value, sharing your expertise, and then them hiring you, you're going to feel so much more fulfilled and so much more alignment because you were you the whole way through.
Absolutely. And even the clients you have, if you already are working with clients or any clients that you get, the first few, that it doesn't matter which ones. If you're not being your authentic self, they're going to feel it, and they're going to feel it fast. And then they're not going to hire you for a second session. Or B, it really boils down to, it matters the energy we're putting out and what we are opening ourselves up. How are we showing up in our business? Like, if we're showing up pretending to be something else, it's not going to work. Like, it's just not, because business is the first thing that brings out all the drama in your life of, oh, well, I thought I already dealt with that mindset shift. And then you're like, I guess I haven't. Here we go. And so it's kind of like that saying where they say, God can't bless who you're pretending to be. And that has always resonated with me, because it's true. Until we truly come before him, because he already knows 100% of who we are. And anyone that listens to me knows that I always say, if I am short on clients, I literally ask God to send me more people that need help. But he also knows that my heart is open. I'm coming from a place of truly wanting to help people and truly wanting to bless others through my business. And so anytime that I pray that prayer, I end up with multiple phone calls and multiple clients every single time. But the times that I'm like panicky and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, like I need more clients, or like I'm not coming from that place of like love and encouragement and joy. And if I'm not right with myself, it's so hard to get clients. So hard. All right. So let's talk about number 2. So we've talked about opening ourselves up and coming from a place of like truly wanting to help people, and how that can, finding that place inside of ourselves is what's going to connect us with others. But now let's talk about the knowing, right? Like knowing that there's enough people out there to even be our clients. Because I know for me, as I've started the podcast and as I've started all these things, a lot of scarcity mindset stuff has come up for me, where I'm just like, is there enough people? And then I'll like drive down the road and see all the people, like for instance, at my son's school when I'm picking him up. And I'm like, okay, if there's this many people in this one spot right now, there are definitely enough people to be my clients and to constantly keep, income coming in to pay my bills. But that mindset of scarcity, like it comes up a lot when you're running a small business. And so what would you say to somebody that is in that place of, well, I'm personally right, or like my mindset is that I honestly want to help people. I love people. I just don't know if in my area there's enough people that are my ideal clients.
Mm, that's a really fantastic question, a really fantastic topic because it's so true. There are billions of people on the internet. There are hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of people in your town, whether you have a small town or a large town, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, each one of us was designed to serve our people. They've already been assigned to us, and we can't go out and pretend or think that we're the only person on the planet that can serve everyone. So, realizing first and foremost that you don't have any competition in the industry, you're called to your people. Okay. That is super important. That is going to help shift your relationships among the communities you're trying to build of people who get you and understand you. So, I want to just like put an end to competition right there. You're all doing the same thing in your own unique way for your people. Regardless of if you have 2 clients or 15 clients, you are going to get the amount of clients you need to sustain you in one way or another. If God's called you to this, He's assigned your people to you, He's going to give you exactly the number of people you need to make it work. And He's not going to deprive you because that's not who He is.
Mm-hmm.
He's a God of giving, but he's also not going to give you more than you're ready to handle. So if you haven't cleaned up your own mindset stuff, if you haven't cleaned up your own internal drama, and he knows you don't have capacity to take on 15 clients day one when you say, I'm open for business, he's not going to give them to you. So just get really brutally honest with yourself and work on yourself and your mindset. Make those little shifts and those reality checks of, okay, like this is where I am in business. I'm brand new. If 15 people reached out to me and called me today, how would I feel? Would I have anxiety about it? Or would I be like, yes, my calendar's open, let's go? Depending on where you sit, if you're brutally honest, you might need to do a little work and just be open to saying, okay, like it's totally okay that no one called me today. Like I've got time to work on me now. And that's okay. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know. I don't even know how many times that I've had a client cancel, right? Like I've had a session set up and I really need that money for like a bill coming up. But then whenever they cancel, for instance, I'm like, you know what? Every single time, either a kid gets sick, like something else happens to where I needed to be off that day, or I'm emotionally so out of balance. I needed that day to just breathe
Mhm.
because we get so in the mindset, especially when we're first starting, of learn, 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 learn. Like we're learning all the things and then we're implementing all of the things. And we get in this cycle, but we don't do those self assessments and those like reality checks for ourselves inside of ourselves of how am I actually feeling? How is this really going for me? And if the answer is, oh my gosh, I didn't get 15 clients the second I opened the doors, which you won't, FYI, like that is an unrealistic expectation, then what is going on inside of me? And are my expectations maybe too high? Because I know within the membership and the group coaching that I do, the women, which, now they're starting to thrive, they're doing amazing. But when we first started together in January, so, like there was one lady and I love her. She's like one of my favorites. She even said she thought she was going to be able to come into the membership, start her organizing business and retire by like the end of the year, all in the same year kind of thing. Like she had these crazy expectations, but it's exactly what you said at the beginning. Online, people are making it seem like, oh, I'm perfect. I started this and I had a line of people waiting for me. And my life is fabulous. And I mean, even like renting houses and renting cars to like make videos to make themselves seem like they have more money than they actually do. The problem with that is it's making us feel like if we're not at that level, then we're doing something wrong or something's not right in our lives. When really the average organizing business takes minimum 8 to 9 months to start steadily getting clients. And that is if you are doing this full time. If you're doing it as a side hobby, You may get an influx in the beginning, but then at some point it's going to kind of lull. That's okay. That's the time to work in your business, in the back office, on your social media. Like there's always something else that you can be doing, sharing your befores and afters, going out into the community and telling people what you do and giving out business cards or whatever that is. There's always something that we can do. But that mindset shift is so important in the beginning of realistically, like at the end of year one, what are my goals? And are those goals too outrageous for the first year of a business? And being 100% realistic about that is going to help help everything all along the way, because then you're not setting yourself up for disappointment. Because then we take, this is an organizing business. The business is us. And so we take it very personal when things are not going right or we're not getting clients. We're like, what did I do wrong? Or why am I, we set ourselves up of, oh, I should be like this other person. But then when it doesn't happen, we beat ourselves up because we're not this other person. And so if someone listening just needs permission, whatever you were thinking, it's okay to realize, wait, my expectations were so out of whack. Let me bring them back down and just take this one day at a time. Calling all passionate professional organizers. Whether you are just getting started or you've been at this a while, exciting news awaits. Our revamped professional organizers coaching community is set to launch in September, and I am inviting you to be a part of this transformative journey. But hurry, enrollment is only going to be open from September 1st to September 10th. We're taking our commitment to your success up a notch. For just $47 a month, brace yourself for an enhanced experience that's designed exclusively for you. Every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern, we will meet. Throughout the month, you'll immerse yourself in 2 impactful group coaching sessions, 1 dynamic workshop, and a focused co-working session. As if that's not rewarding enough, the first Sunday of each month at 6 p.m. Eastern brings a bonus enriching group coaching session. And girl, we know that life gets busy, so we've got you covered. Our replay vault ensures you won't miss a moment. Can't attend a live session? Catch up on the replays at your convenience. Plus, remember, your membership fee qualifies as a legitimate business expense, making this a smart tax write-off. Our sisterhood offers unwavering support, accountability, and boundless inspiration. Your journey is our journey, and together we will thrive. You can find the links in the show notes below, or you can go to proorganizerscoach.com/join to fill out your application, and we will see you in September.
Honestly, there's so much that came up for me in what you were just saying. But a big thing for me, I think that's going to help people put this into perspective is actually a personal shift I had to go through. And that was really when I was in the midst of my coaching business here. And I had really started praying and I was like, Lord, would you bring more clients? I'm ready for them. My capacity is here. Like, I've got the space. I'm totally on board for taking on whatever it is you want to bring to me. And then I wouldn't even schedule coffee chats because I had a lot of concern around, am I going to have someone to watch my kids that day? Because I'm trying to schedule it in the future. Or are my kids going to be napping during that time? Like, what are the hours that they're available? Or are they just going to behave? Or am I going to be getting hit in the head with toys while I'm trying to have this conversation? And my eyes were really open to the fact that the desires, the things that I was praying for, were completely out of alignment with my actions and the things I was doing versus saying I was ready for, right? So if you're feeling like I can take on the world right now, I'm so ready for clients, but your actions aren't showing that, then there's something in your mindset that's off. There's something that is misaligned that's keeping you from taking the actions and stepping confidently into this is what I want. This is what I'm ready for. You're not actually ready for it. Go back and look at what's going on.
Yeah, no, I love that because, like I was mentioning earlier, the episode that was right before this one that we're putting out, when she was talking about that 1% shift. And it's literally, she was saying, and this hit me so powerfully because even all these years later, I'm still working this stuff out. Like I'm still on a daily basis trying to figure this out. And she said, what have you done today that's 1% more than what you did yesterday towards your dreams? So today, even if like I know for my health, right? I'm like, oh, I need to be really healthy to continue being an organizer because it's very physical work. Well, I had kind of gotten in the habit of eating these little strawberry cakes as like a rewarder, at the end of each day that I quote unquote deemed I was doing good. And the second she said it, like a few days before we had recorded, I had just stopped eating those at night before I went to bed. And I felt such good accomplishment. I was like, oh my gosh, because that was a habit I had to break, right? Like every night I got one of those
Yeah.
cakes. And so what I loved about that though is it takes off the pressure of I have to fix it all tomorrow. Like, or today. Today didn't go the way I wanted, so it's
Mhm.
all over with. Like, instead of it being that broad, big thing, it brings it back down to no, what can I do today that gets me 1% closer to my goal so I can start stacking wins, which is also something she talked about. And when you start
Yeah.
stacking those wins, that's where that doubled penny comes in. And when she said that, like
Mhm.
it washed all over me of like, yes, exactly, because that is something I can do. The whole like fixing it all of it today, I get overwhelmed and I end up watching Netflix.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important to break things down. That's one thing I help my clients with when it comes to like setting up their goals. I'm like, okay, well, let's reverse engineer this goal. If this is where you want to be, what is every single action item you need to do in order to reach that goal? Make
Hmm.
every single action item a piece of your roadmap to getting there, and then just do the next thing. Take the next step. Where's the next like piece of the puzzle? Um, and then just focus on that, because if you focus on the whole big picture, if you try to accomplish everything at once, yeah, it gets really overwhelming. Or you don't think everything all the way through and you end up with delays or roadblocks or obstacles because you didn't realize that would possibly come up because you didn't take the time to think about it. Yeah, that one little thing that's such a big deal. I'm excited for that episode, honestly.
Yeah. I know. I'm already editing it. I'm like, this one's going ahead of all the rest because it's so good. Awesome. Okay. So, number 3, what are 4 questions that our listeners should be asking themselves so they can find their authentic story? And then that way their ideal clients can find them. So question number 1, what is the journey you yourself have walked through to get where you are now? Whether it's emotionally, spiritually, with organization, physically, whichever ones of these that resonate with you the most, or I would even suggest all 3. Like maybe even, getting out a piece of paper and kind of journaling and making a line. And, on the left, put spiritually, emotionally, organizing, or physically, whichever, 2 or 3 of those that you want to journal about. But figuring out like, what is your story? Because for me, my story was that I learned to declutter for myself. And once I had done that for myself, then I felt the calling to help other people do it. And so when I was writing up all of my marketing for like the website and my social media and just all of the things, I let my heart like open up and share with them, how I felt before, how I felt after I learned to declutter, how much I had to declutter for myself to feel the weight come off, and how because I've walked through that journey, I am not there to judge them. I'm literally there to be a supporting hand and to help lift them up in an area that is not their area of expertise. There's no judgment with it. It's literally, I'm thankful that I tell clients all the time, they're like, oh my gosh, I bet your house is so organized. And I'm like, I mean, I guess, yes, it's more organized than it used to be, but it's still not perfect. I've got kids, I've got dogs, I've got a husband. Hello, fuzzy. And so, whenever I'm telling them that, I'm like, I'm not perfect. Just because I'm a professional organizer literally has nothing to do with anything. It just means that I've already walked this road and now I'm here to help you do the same. But when I can relate to them because they're my ideal client and because they're my people, it takes all that shame off of them. And when we can help take the shame off, instead of putting curated, perfect photos on everything. Now, of course, you want it in some places on your website and social media. It does make it look better. But the more realistic we can get with our words and with a lot of our before and after photos, it helps break that shame that a lot of people feel when they go to our website and they're like, oh, well, I'm not perfect, so I can't hire an organizer. Or I'm not wealthy, so I can't hire an organizer. All of a sudden, they can see you as like, oh, well, she's done these types of sessions. My house looks very similar. Oh, in her messaging, she talks about how she did this for herself. And I have 2 kids like she does, or I have 2 dogs like she does, or I have a husband like she does, And so you have to get very, not blunt, but very real and open and honest and vulnerable when you're writing up your messaging, when you're sharing things with other people so they can actually connect with you. And so, what is that journey that you have walked? How has it changed your life? And how can you write it in a way and just kind of journal on these things? But who are you? What have you walked through? Because I know for me, if I didn't take the time to go up to my spot that I spent time with God and sit and journal on this stuff, it was coming off very superficial, I guess is a good word, is the way that my messaging was coming off at first, because I kept writing what I thought someone else would want to hear instead of typing out and putting everywhere who I actually was and sharing my own story. And so what are your thoughts on that, Shaina?
I think you hit the nail on the head with this one, as far as like it just ties back to what we were talking about with point number one and being your authentic self. There's so much value and goodness that comes from just being you and owning your story, owning the struggles that you went through. That makes you so much more real. It makes you so much more relatable. And people are like, hallelujah, someone is like showing up not fake. This is
Right.
great because my house is just as much a mess as theirs was. And it's really such a starting point. You have to realize that the people you're called to help are really just a few steps behind you, right? They're not these people that are completely helpless. They're just like you, just a few steps behind, and they're looking for someone who's actually tackled the problem they're facing successfully, that is a real human being, that can be honest, that can be transparent, and just feel comfortable. Like you said, I love that you pointed out that they should journal on this, because that was the exact thing that popped into my mind whenever you were like, get a piece of paper. And I'm like, there's so much content there. If you write it down, you have so much content. Like, business, especially in today's like online era, content is one of the hardest things for business owners, right? It's so hard for us to come up with content that's going to resonate with our people all the time and show up consistently. And if you just show up and you're like, this is what I did today, here it is. People are going to be so appreciative. It's going to be great. And just, yes, going through your whole journey. And if you think it started at one point, think back just a little farther. I've had to do that recently. It's going to be a whole thing that I'll dive into like in the future. But I thought my journey started in 2021. No, it started long before that. The more detailed, the more intimate, the more vulnerable you can get with your story, the more you're going to connect with your people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've realized I just recently took a boot camp and she was talking about what she called the simple sales method. And I love it because the S stands for storytelling. And that for me is, I know what's made me successful in my organizing business is because I did put my authentic story on my website. And I did put, as much as I could, the authentic pictures, and which pictures tell a story, especially before and after photos. They tell a huge story. And, everyone was so used to all of those curated photos that I know for 100% fact are not 100% staged, but like they're pretty staged, where people talk about like pulling stuff out of the photos, taking the photo, putting the stuff back for real life. Like, that's not realistic. And if we are expecting that, like I tell my clients or my coaching clients all the time in the membership, I'm like, if when you got there, the before photo, you couldn't see a floor, and after your session, you can see the floor, that's a before and after. Share it. Like, because then those are your people. That's who, like, we have to share the journey we are walking through, because it's not just the physical stuff that we're going in to help with. It's also the emotional stuff. And so if they can't connect with us emotionally, they are not going to get value out of what we can do. Now, yes, can we quote unquote organize a pantry all day, every day? Can we organize a closet? Sure. But if I can connect with that client, then when her sister needs decluttering or organizing, or when she goes on her social, she's going to share, oh my gosh, this girl was amazing. Like she felt like a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. And we turned on music and we had a good time. And, we have to think about our client experience. And that starts with figuring out, what has our experience been? Question number 2, this 100% ties in, which we're already talking about it. But what are the pain points that you have walked through that you want to help others solve? So specifically when you're journaling, make sure to ask yourself that specific question. So what have I walked through that I can help others solve? Like for me, it was the decluttering piece. Every person I heard said they were born this way. And because I wasn't born that way, I was always the person late. I was always the person everyone was joking about. Tell Samantha an hour and a half before the actual family gathering, so she'll get here on time. Like I was a hot mess. And so I had to learn these things. But once I figured out, oh my gosh, it's a skill that I can learn, that is what helped change me. And so, but when I looked at everyone else, they kept saying they were born this way, like it was natural. And so I felt almost shame that I wasn't born that way. And so it delayed my progress for a very long time because of that shame. But now I know that God has taken what, the enemy meant for bad into my good, because now I've walked through that. Now I can share that. Now that is part of my story. And people are so looking for authenticity, like period. I am so excited. I want to stop right there for today because, of course, this has been jam-packed with all kinds of goodies. So make sure that you all go and you are going to journal between now and next week when part 2 comes out. You are going to journal about what have you walked through emotionally, physically, spiritually with your organization journey. What have you truly walked through? And then you're also going to look at pain points and you're going to journal over those. What have I walked through that I can now kind of leverage to help someone else solve? And I promise, when I first started my business, or before I started my business, there for like 2 years, I kept feeling God telling me, write it down, write it down, write it down. And now I regret the times I didn't write it down, because exactly what you said earlier, Shaina, it's content. Like everything we write down that we are struggling with, or when we write down what we've dealt with in the past, every single one of those things can become content. But we've got to get that perspective and be able to look at it that way instead of having the shame or the guilt because, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell everyone all my dirty laundry. I 100% understand that. And the first time I ever went on someone else's podcast and shared my authentic story, I squabbled like a baby through the whole thing. And FYI, if you want to hear it, it's on she's called, I don't know, I'll put the link in the show notes below for that episode because I forget the name of the podcast, but the chick is amazing. And I share my testimony of what I've walked through with my husband, with my dad passing away, with like all of the personal stuff. Like I literally talk about it all. And that day when I was doing that, I almost want this day to be like that day was for me. But I want it for you all to have that moment of being able to see, I have walked through some stuff. Like I am stronger than I thought I was. And everything I've walked through has led me to this point for a reason. And it's because I am called and meant to help the people that are assigned to me. And the quicker I can get myself figured out is the quicker I can start helping those people. Because if I'm a hot mess when I go into those sessions, I'm not going to be very good for them if I'm sitting there like, crying my eyes out the whole time or, being like angry or stressed, or I have to be able to go in with calmness and peace and help them feel the same because they are the ones that are in stress and in chaos. And whether they say it or not, if they're calling for help, they 100% are feeling all sorts of emotions that we, just by being there, just by speaking over their lives encouragement, can honestly change other people's lives. And so I want to leave you with that homework. Go and do some journaling and then come join us next week. Next week, we are going to finish up with the other 2 questions that you should be asking yourself to find your authentic story. And then we are also going to talk about if you are getting stuck when asking yourself these questions, then 1, 2, or 3 of these 3 fears might be or are definitely what is causing you to get stuck. And so definitely join us for that. You do not want to miss it. I promise it is going to bless you and help take off a lot of this pressure because you're going to see, oh my gosh, like other people have done this. They've walked through this. They have gone through this too. I'm not alone. And so make sure that you come back for next week's episode. And Shaina, I thank you so much for doing this. And we will put all of the links in the show notes below so you all can reach out and show Shaina some love. So, all right, we will see you next week. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. If you've gotten any value from today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us grow and it warms my heart to hear from you. And make sure to stay connected with us on socials at Pro Organizers Coach. Then go to proorganizerscoach.com to find all the ways that we can help you succeed in your business. You have the power to make a difference in people's lives through decluttering and organization. Keep honing your skills, embracing those challenges, and fostering connections within our organizing community. Progress will come with every step, so keep pushing forward and you will achieve your dreams. Girl, you've got this.